Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a really fascinating look at some ancient wisdom, holding it right up against what modern neuroscience is telling us now.
Yeah, it's quite something. We're focusing on conflict, emotion, and what it really means to be honorable when someone, let's say, pushes your buttons.
Exactly. And our source material, it's incredibly focused, just one line really, from the book of Proverbs.
A single line, but it acts almost like a surgical guide for developing character, especially in tough situations. Our mission really is to unpack what the ancient world meant by honor in a confrontation. Was it about winning or something else?
Like choosing to walk away. The source is Proverbs 20, verse 3. And a simple paraphrase is basically, the one who stops conflict is honorable, but the fool immediately flares up and causes trouble.
Right, and we should be clear who this is really for. This deep dive, it's aimed squarely at, let's say, the average person. Someone who finds themselves getting drawn into arguments, maybe more often than they'd like, arguments they regret.
Yeah, it's not really advice for generals on a battlefield.
No, not at all. It's talking directly to you, encouraging you to maybe choose that harder path, the counterintuitive one, withdrawal.
And what strikes me immediately is how this flips the usual script. It completely shifts the value system, doesn't it? It's not celebrating the person who gets the last word in, the witty comeback.
Not at all. Honor here isn't defined by victory. It's defined by retreat, by having the courage to withdraw.
Withdrawing courage. I like that. And it puts it in direct contrast to foolishness, which is that immediate explosion of anger.
Exactly. The whole evaluation is about your character, your dignity. It's about avoiding that later embarrassment, having to apologize or losing respect.
And that foolishness, that explosion, the original language has something specific to say about that, doesn't it?
It really does. The Hebrew word used for the fool's reaction is yit gala, and it has this incredibly vivid meaning, to gush forth or to become exposed.
Gush forth. Wow, that sounds almost messy, involuntary even.
It's powerful imagery, isn't it? It suggests losing control isn't just about shouting louder. It's like a wound breaking open, or maybe like a pot boiling over, and all the messy stuff inside just spills out.
Unfiltered, yeah. And exposed for everyone to see, which obviously escalates things instantly.
Right, publicly. So if that reaction, that yet gala, is so damaging, why is it often our first instinct? Why is it so tempting?
It feels like it must be protecting something, right? That immediate urge to lash out.
Well, that leads us straight into the evolutionary context. You have to think back. In smaller, close-knit groups, reacting forcefully and immediately to an insult or a threat to your status, it could actually be beneficial.
How so?
It showed you wouldn't be pushed around. It was kind of survival mechanism, really. It helped maintain your standing in the group, stopped you from being seen as weak or someone who can be easily exploited.
Okay, so thousands of years ago, that quick fight response, adaptive, kept you safer, maybe maintained your position, short-term gain.
But now, in our complex modern world, that same instinct often leads to, long-term disaster.
Yeah, that quick win costs you down the line.
Absolutely. Ruined reputations at work, broken relationships, missed opportunities. It adds up. Which makes that ancient label of foolishness seem surprisingly spot on for what is now often non-adaptive behavior.
So we have this ancient description, this gushing forth, and this evolutionary echo. But is there like a psychological mechanism behind it? A reason why we default to assuming the worst and jumping into the fight?
Oh, definitely. And this is where it gets really interesting, how well the ancient text aligns with modern psychology. That immediate, often regrettable reaction. It's frequently fueled by a cognitive shortcut, a kind of mental glitch called hostile attribution bias, HAB for short.
Hostile attribution bias. Okay, break that down. How does HAB actually work in the moment?
So HAB is essentially the tendency to interpret ambiguous actions or words, things that could honestly mean several different things, as hostile, as having malicious intent.
So your boss sends a short email, maybe just see me, and your brain immediately goes to, uh-oh, I'm in trouble, even though it could just mean they need information.
Exactly that. That immediate negative interpretation, this is an attack, is the trigger for the Gala, that gushing forth reaction the proverb warns about.
So the real problem often isn't the comment itself, but how we interpret it. The second we assign malice.
We become the fool in the proverb's terms, yes.
Okay, but here's the question that always comes up for me. Does this mean we just have to assume everyone has good intentions all the time? What if the comment was actually hostile or unfair? Are you supposed to just ignore that?
That's a really critical point. And it's why this deep dive is important. The
Sure.
wisdom here isn't telling you to be naive or to ignore genuine malice. It's asking you to delay the reaction.
Delay it. Why?
Because research in social psychology is very clear on this. Think about studies where they give people ambiguous scenarios. Those with more aggressive tendencies, they're far more likely to interpret the ambiguity as hostile and then choose an aggressive response.
Ah, I see. So the interpretation directly leads to the action.
Undeniably, interpretation directs behavior. If you choose to see hostility, you're far more likely to respond with hostility, even if none was intended.
And we can actually see this happening in the brain, can't we? This explains the speed of it all.
Yes, that immediate interpretation, it lights up the amygdala. It's this small, almond-shaped part of the brain deep inside that's constantly scanning for threats, danger detection, emotional significance.
So the amygdala flags that ambiguous email or comment as an insult, like instantly.
And boom, you get the fight or flight response kicking in.
Yeah.
Often the fight response in these social situations, before your rational brain even has a chance to weigh in.
The rational brain being the prefrontal cortex.
Exactly, the prefrontal cortex. That's the part responsible for planning, judgment, impulse control, reevaluation. The path to honor, in the proverb sense, is about creating just enough space, enough friction to let the prefrontal cortex catch up.
To override the amygdala's initial, sometimes faulty alarm.
Precisely. To reevaluate,
Yeah.
to ask, hang on, is this really a threat?
Okay, let's make this concrete. We need an everyday example. Because honestly, we all face this, especially at work, right? You get that email with tracked changes, or someone gives you feedback.
Oh yes, that feeling. The heat rising in your chest, maybe a bit of shame or anger.
Totally. So imagine this scenario. Person A writes a report. Person B reviews it and leaves a comment in red ink. Maybe it just says, structure here might be weak.
Okay, classic situation.
Person A sees the red ink, sees the word weak, and their amygdala just fires up. They perceive it as, you think I'm weak, or you think my work is incompetent. A personal attack.
Right. The hostile attribution bias kicks in. They attribute malice.
So they yitgala. They gush forth, maybe fire back an email like, well, if you think it's so bad, maybe you should write it yourself.
And instantly, the whole atmosphere sours. Person B gets defensive, maybe attacks back, the project stalls, relationships get damaged, and maybe later person A realizes person B just meant the paragraph structure was confusing for the reader.
Yeah.
Purely technical.
And they're left feeling foolish, regretting the outburst, reputation maybe slightly bented.
Exactly. Whereas the honorable alternative,
Sure.
the one that protects their dignity and keeps things professional,
Would have been.
inhibiting that initial flare-up, taking a breath, and responding with something like, thanks for the feedback. Could you clarify which specific parts of the structure you feel are weak? Simple, non-escalatory.
It sounds simple, but in the heat of the moment.
That's why we need a tool, a practical technique, something you, the listener, can actually use when you feel yourself being pulled into that fight, a kind of universal if-then plan.
Okay, let's hear it. This feels like the core of applying this wisdom.
All right, it's this. If you feel your heart rate jump up when someone speaks to you, or when you read that ambiguous text or email, that physical jolt, that's your cue, the sign of provocation, then you immediately use the 3 breaths plus confirmation technique.
3 breaths plus confirmation. Okay, walk us through executing that when you're feeling attacked.
First step is crucial. Stop. Stop talking, stop typing, just pause. Then take 3 slow, deliberate, deep breaths. This isn't about zoning out, it's active biofeedback. You're calming your physical system.
Okay, 3 deep breaths. Then what?
Then, you must ask one confirming phrase. You force yourself to engage the rational brain, the prefrontal cortex, by formulating a question to clarify intent.
So if I'm feeling that gush starting, I pause, breathe 3 times, and then I might say something like, oh. Okay, just so I'm clear, are you saying the way I organize section 2 is confusing, or is it something else?
Exactly like that. It might feel a bit awkward, yeah, because you're breaking your usual rapid-fire, probably defensive script. But that awkwardness is the point.
You're forcing a pattern interrupt.
Precisely. And the science backs this up strongly. Deep breathing literally dials down the sympathetic nervous system, that fight-or-flight system. It calms the amygdala.
Okay, and the confirmation question.
That directly tackles the hostile attribution bias. It forces a reevaluation. It makes you pause and consider, wait, maybe they weren't attacking me. Maybe they were just trying to convey information, however clumsily.
So you're prioritizing purpose, getting the project right, maintaining the relationship and your own dignity over that immediate emotional flare-up.
That's the goal. Dignity and purpose over immediate reaction.
This technique sounds incredibly useful for, you know, everyday disagreements, misunderstandings, petty arguments. But we have to circle back to that really important question you raised earlier.
The issue of real injustice.
Exactly. What if it's not just an ambiguous comment? What if someone is genuinely bullying you or acting unfairly or even illegally? Does halting conflict mean you just have to roll over and accept it, submit?
This is probably the most critical distinction we need to make. Getting this wrong is how this kind of wisdom gets misused, leading people to tolerate abuse. The rule is crystal clear. You must distinguish withdrawal from acquiescence. They are not the same thing.
Withdrawal versus acquiescence, or like silent complicity.
Right. Choosing not to engage in the immediate emotional fight, the yadgala, is the honorable path, according to the proverb. But that absolutely does not mean letting the injustice slide.
So if you're facing something serious, danger, illegality, persistent bullying, what is the honorable, dignified protocol according to this framework?
In those serious situations, engaging in that immediate emotionally charged fight is still defined as foolish. It rarely solves the core issue and often makes you look uncontrolled. The honorable protocol is different. It's a three-step process. Withdraw, record, report.
Withdraw, record, report. Explain that.
First, withdraw from the immediate confrontation. Don't get drawn into a shouting match or an email war. Maintain your composure. Second, calmly record the facts. Dates, times, specifics of what happened, any evidence, witnesses. Keep it objective. Third, report the issue through the proper appropriate channels.
Like HR or management or maybe even law enforcement, depending on the severity.
Exactly. Formal, non-emotional, established routes. This way, you maintain your dignity, you refuse to become the fool who gushes forth, but you also ensure the injustice isn't ignored. It gets handled strategically, calmly, through official means.
So you get potential justice, or at least resolution, without sacrificing your personal honor in a messy emotional brawl.
You choose the wise, long-term strategic path over the foolish, short-term emotional explosion, which brings us right back to the heart of the proverb.
Okay, let's try and weave all these threads together. Synthesize this for you, our listener, connecting that ancient wisdom to your life right now.
It really comes down to a conscious choice, doesn't it?
It does. This deep dive showed us, first, that honor in this context is found in the deliberate decision to withdraw from pointless escalation, while foolishness is letting that raw, immediate anger, the yitgala, just gush out.
And we identified the practical tool to break that cycle.
Right, the core technique. Use the 3 breaths plus intent confirmation method. That interrupts the hostile attribution bias, stops the faulty interpretation before it triggers the explosion.
Crucially, though, we also set the boundary.
Yes, the rule to prevent misuse. Always distinguish between tactical withdrawal and passive complicity. When faced with real injustice, the dignified path is withdraw calmly, record the facts objectively, and report the issue through the proper channels. Resolution without losing control.
Ultimately, this ancient passage is teaching us how to be, well, wiser than winners.
Wiser than winners. I like that.
Yeah. That strength to step back when provoked, to choose your own dignity over the fleeting satisfaction of lashing out, that's real personal power.
So we'll leave you with a final thought to mull over, building directly on that idea that our interpretation drives our behavior. Think about the interactions you've had just today.
Is there a common, maybe even harmless comment you regularly receive from a colleague, partner, supervisor, maybe even your kids, that you tend to misinterpret?
Misinterpreting it as a threat or an attack because of that hostile attribution bias. And what's the immediate emotional reaction costing you in terms of your peace, your relationships, your reputation?
Something to reflect on. Choose honor over the gush.